No, it's interesting. Obviously, well, at least I can't extrapolate this to everyone, but in high school, right? The, there was very little trust in student honor, right? I mean, there were multiple mechanisms to prevent cheating and prevent that. I'm not saying that cheating is rampant here at Harvard, but I feel like there's a lot more trust vested in students to to take exams honorably, right? Uh, and I think that's a good thing. And I've always heard this thing, right? Like if your student, like this is in reference to a teacher, if your student is incentivized to cheat on whatever, a test, a quiz, is that really pointing at the student, or is that more towards the incentives of the class and how that's structured? And I'm curious your thoughts on that. Right? Is it more because of the class, how it's structured to emphasize the grade over the learning, or is it more because of the student and they were born mischievous? you know.
I don't know.
No,
I mean, that's a definitely a good question. And it's like I feel like that's something I'd have to think about. I mean, obviously, I think that both the teacher and student each play a role, obviously, in ensuring that the classroom environment is a great one. Obviously, it's more so on the teacher, but also the student needs to come to class wanting to learn. You know what I mean? So that effort has to come from them. But yeah, I mean, like to your earlier comment about all the trust that I think we're seeing here, I think especially this semester in this era of COVID-19, that exists a lot more because obviously a lot of assignments are now remote. And, there are some assignments where they want you to really be limited in the extent at which you're collaborating with other people. So for sure, there's a lot of trust. And I think obviously some of that, you wouldn't really see it to such an extent, I think, in a normal year. So I think it's definitely an interesting environment because I think teachers and professors are trying to really adapt as best as they can. So yeah, I mean, I would totally agree that the trust level is really now incumbent upon the students.
I almost
no, yeah,
even say that trust is the major factor here. I think there's just so much incentive not to cheat. Like if you get caught here, there's
Mm,
a lot of times there's no going back. And I think it's definitely worth it to maybe take the B minus or C on the test than
Right.
risk totally losing your chance at an education here at Harvard. So
That's true.
no, yeah, I definitely feel that. I do think though that it's like also this attitude. It's like if you're gonna be at a place like Harvard and you're just gonna cheat your way through, like, are you really kind of taking the value of everything that you're learning here and like the opportunity that you've been afforded, right? So it's like I think that trust just comes with the fact that like you picked your classes this semester. Like, yeah, maybe you were stuck in some gen eds that are just trying to like just like get out the way, but at the same time, you're like choosing classes you mostly like. So even though there's a midterm or a paper or something, like, I mean, you knew what you kind of were signing up for and you're curious and you're passionate about what you're learning. So I guess it really just comes back to yourself. If you're going to cheat on a midterm, then, and you're not learning information for your own good, then it sucks. It's going to come back to bite you eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I
for
can
sure.
tell you. So one of the classes I'm in this year is CS50, and as part of their problem sets, they allow you to take. So they allow you to submit an assignment if you're more comfortable with CS or less comfortable. So it's like different versions of the same assignment. One is more difficult to accomplish, one is less difficult. And I've in talking to different kids from the class, I've met a couple who actually try to do both. And in talking to them, they genuinely do it because they want to practice, they want to learn that way. And so it's so interesting and awesome to come into contact with students who are learning to learn. They're not learning for the grade or learning for whatever will come on their transcript, but I mean they're really trying to get the best out of their education. And so obviously I think that exists at a lot of different institutions, but to see that at Harvard as well, it just shows like what a wonderful community I think we're a part of, that so many students here are passionate about different things. And the fact that we have this liberal arts education that allows us to take classes about things that we're interested in, that really, I think, encourages students to dive in deep to learn more about themselves and the world around them.
yeah, yeah, and that speaks, of course, to the quality of education, right? Because like what Leo said, there's propriety now, right? We have literally well, not complete freedom, but illusionary freedom to choose to choose whatever class we want, right? Obviously there's the whatever the requirements to meet, but those almost seem meaningless when you consider the fact that I mean I did not pay attention to the requirements at all this year except for xbox 20, and yet still I somehow managed to satisfy like 3 of my general core
Oh, wow.
requirements. But what I wanted to bring up though was how, again, to quickly go back to incentives, right? And I keep bringing up high school because obviously that's the most recent experience that I've had. We're all first years, so I'm going to keep bringing that up. But in high school, it feels very grade pressured, right? I mean, it's hard. You hardly ever consider learning as the primary incentive. It's almost always the credential. And despite Harvard being known as a place for credentials, the Harvard credential is probably one of the most valuable credentials you can ever have. At the same time, from my personal experience so far, taking my classes, it really does incentivize you to learn, right? And that's multiple factors. The professors are fantastic. The content itself is specific yet broad. And of course, you pick that class. You are invested in it. I'm curious for you guys if that's the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree. Oh, I'm sorry, John, go ahead. I mean, interrupt you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think right now, at least, I've never felt less pressure to get a good grade for some reason. Like I don't know if that's just me. It might just be me, but like sure, I have a test coming up on Thursday, but like I'm almost like at the point where not so much what happens because that seems kind of, I guess, apathetic, but like I feel like I put in the work to learn. So if I don't succeed, then it's not really on me.
Yes.
Maybe that's the wrong way to think about it, but I feel less stressed for that reason. So
yeah, that's completely valid. Yeah. Fez, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, but I think like in high school, while you are able to pick the classes you want to take, obviously there's not as much diversity in terms of topic. And so here, when you open the course catalog, the PDF is like so long because they have like thousands of classes you can take, and literally over almost every like conceivable subject. So I mean, the classes I'm taking this semester, I was genuinely excited for because these were the classes that surrounded the different fields I was interested in. And I see, the thing is, personally, I haven't decided on a concentration, but like each class I'm taking this year kind of relates to a different field that I'm interested in and wanted to explore. So part of the reason why I was excited was because this will kind of help me decide, what I would like to do for the rest of my life. And so far, I mean, I've been enjoying each one, but I mean, there's some classes I've been like, okay, maybe this isn't so much for me as a career option. Other classes where I've been more surprised and I've decided, maybe this is something worth exploring. So, I mean, I would totally agree that, I mean, now obviously the grade is still important. You are also just learning because you want to learn and you genuinely want to get that kind of insight for your future. So, I mean, I would absolutely agree with what John is saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, for God's sake, there's a class literally called Tree on campus. I mean,
I applied for that one first.
Oh, you applied for that one? Yeah, if I took a freshman seminar this year, I would have, that was my number one choice. I mean,
what's it about?
Well, surprisingly, it's about trees. No, I'm just kidding. But well, I mean, yeah, it's everything about trees, from the biology even to like law. Like, do trees have rights, right? Like, similarly how there's like anti-animal cruelty laws. Do trees deserve anti-cruelty laws for trees? I mean, can we just simply go around the trees and snap branches off and not expect repercussions? Obviously I'm not taking the class, so I wouldn't know the answer to that. But and again, like, I think the beauty of all of this is that it really makes you consider what is meaningful education, right? Is it really the content that you're learning? Because like, sure, okay, you take the tree class. Sure, take the tree class. Are you going to apply that tree knowledge to your career or whatever? I would probably not, right? Maybe if you're looking to become a tree arborologist, is it an arborologist, right? But the meaning of the education itself is, I think, the process of the learning, right? Like, easy example, and maybe you guys can give examples as well. But for my math class, right, it's modeling in the life sciences, right, where you use calculus to model like predator prey or chemical kinetics, right? And on the Q guide specifically, I remember this specific comment. They said you would probably never use these equations ever in your life, ever. You'll probably never apply this knowledge that you'll learn in class ever in your even if you go into like bio computation or biostatistics, you'll probably not use these. But the fact is that it teaches you a method of thinking and a method of analysis that is really useful if you take some liberty with applying it,
For
right?
sure.
And I think all of us kind of have our foot in some sort of science, right? Math or physics or CS, where that I think is a very justifiable reasoning, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's not even about like applying it to your own life, but it's like there's some classes that just genuinely seem interesting, where it's like, why not just take it for fun? Like, see if there's something here that you might pick up as a hobby. So like, I mean, I don't know. It's like obviously there's so many different clubs that you can definitely join to learn more about yourself. But I mean, there's a lot of classes too where it's like I know that that's not going to be a career I'm going to explore, but I'm still just genuinely interested to learn more about that because that topic seems fascinating and maybe I don't have experience in it, but I'd like to at least have my foot in the door. So I mean, see, and I'm sorry, I'm going back to I'm like stating what I said before again, but it's like I mean that's kind of the beauty of this liberal arts education where it's not like you're confined to a single course and you can't look beyond that. You don't have blinders on. It's like you can really just explore the world around you. So I mean, I think that's part of the reason why I know there's so many campuses that have that, but I mean, I think that's part of the reason why Harvard is what it is.